So welcome to my mini course, Emotional Eating. What is at the root, or rather roots, of emotional eating? So what does it mean, emotional eating? So to me, it can manifest and look very differently for many people, but usually it boils down to feeling out of control with food, to feeling like you're on autopilot when you're eating food at times, eating foods that you know aren't good for you, or overeating and eating larger amounts that you know that your body needs. Maybe it's even eating food that you don't really want to eat, and even food that you don't even really enjoy, but just find yourself shoving those foods into your mouth, not really knowing why. Maybe you sometimes hide to eat certain food. Maybe you plan specific binges to get through your day. Maybe you find yourself standing in the kitchen and grabbing anything you can. And if you relate to any of this, most likely you feel like a failure around food. You feel like you don't have any willpower. You feel crazy around food, and you feel like food is, as much as it is your best friend, at time it is also your worst enemy. I've met so many people struggling with emotional eating, and I've struggled with it myself for years, actually 2 decades. And to me, it felt like I was stuck in a very vicious cycle, just like in the movie Groundhog Day. I would start my day with good intentions and try really hard to get back on track, but then something would happen and my hands would end up in a bag of potato chip or cookies, or with a spoon in a jar of ice cream. And then I would end up feeling disgusted and guilty for falling off the wagon again, and just feeling very miserable, both in my body, because all of these foods, eating those types of foods and eating too many of those foods, too much at once, I mean, would cause a lot of discomfort in my body. And then there was all of the mental and emotional component as well, where I was beating myself up and feeling so powerless around food and around my health, and moving forward on my healing journey. And then I would beat myself up to try to motivate myself to get back on track the next day or the next Monday and come up with a plan with my head. And it's and it would be never ending. So, you restrict your food, you go on another diet, you increase your exercise, then you rebel with food, then you restrict again, and then you eat your emotions and binge, and then you try harder to get back on track, and then you try this new miracle supplements, and then you feel like you failed again, over and over again, and feeling really stuck in the process. And the irony is that many people I work with that suffer with emotional eating, and I can attest to this personally, to what I wanted to achieve and what all of these people want to achieve, and maybe that's your case too, is food freedom. Feeling like food doesn't have all of that power over us, but it feels like we need to do this diet or lose a certain amount of weight or achieve certain things before we can get there and achieve that food freedom that almost seems impossible for us at this point when we struggle with emotional eating. So is that how you feel too? Let's take a deep breath, because that's a lot of heavy stuff. That's a lot of a big turmoil that many people are simmering in for a big part of their life. So, if you're listening and you struggle with emotional eating, know that you are not alone. And most of the programs that are out there to help people like you and me stop emotional eating do not work. They barely scratch the surface. They tell you to distract yourself by taking a bath or calling a friend or exercising or journaling or eating more celery. That doesn't work. Those approaches will never work. So know that it is not your fault if you haven't found a solution to your emotional eating yet. There's nothing wrong with you. These approaches are simply too superficial, and the problem of emotional eating just goes really deep under the surface. So there's no strategy that is superficial will ever work. So I would even say that even though you feel like you have a problem with food, I would go as far as to say that these are not, it is not the real problem. Food or your health or your weight, these are not the real issues that you're struggling with. These are only manifestations and symptoms of a problem that goes much deeper. And that's why keeping focusing on food or your health or your weight will never work. And again, just know that it is not your fault. That's why all of the magazines and ads and marketing companies and different online programs out there want you to believe that it is your fault and that you're not trying hard enough and that you only need to try this thing and then you'll be cured you know uh, so they make profit out of you believing that it is your fault and that there is something wrong with you. But emotional eating is not a problem. It's never been the problem. It's just a symptom. So it's time to stop, running in that hamster wheel and start looking elsewhere to find what might be missing, what might help you move forward on your healing journey as you're trying to break free of emotional eating and get to that place where you can achieve that food freedom that seems so mysterious and so impossible and out of reach for you right now. But I promise it's there for you too, because I that's how I felt too about it. And I have achieved a lot of peace and freedom with food, and I want that for you too. Okay, so again, I repeat, emotional eating is not the problem, it is a symptom. And now you're probably asking, well, a symptom of what? Please tell me. I can I can hear you ask that question right now. So, well, emotional eating, here is the answer, is a symptom of your roots not being nourished right now. So let me backtrack a little bit. So I founded Radicata Nutrition because I always loved the word root, and radicata comes from Latin and means root. So at first, when I chose that name, Radicata Nutrition, back in 2012, it was really all about going to the root of people's physical health issues, whether it was gut issues or any kind of hormonal imbalances or blood sugar issues, whatever. So it was trying to go back to the root of those physical symptoms so I could help people heal and feel better. But in the last years, I saw how there's even a deeper meaning to the word root. And that's why I guess it was a perfect fit for me, even though it started taking a whole new meaning for me. So right now, what I've discovered in the last years as I continue to heal myself and healing others is that there are many different other roots. And we have four main roots. We have the body, the mind, the heart, and soul. And it's impossible to heal if we only take care of one of these roots. For example, the body is what most people tend to focus on, sometimes the mind too, but usually the heart and soul, there's very little that we do for those roots. And we cannot have a healthy and strong tree if we nourish only one or even only part of one of these roots. The tree, if we do that, the tree will become unbalanced and won't be able to stand tall and be the beautiful tree that it's supposed to be. And it's the same for you. So before I talk more about those four roots that we need to learn how to nourish better so we can rid ourselves of emotional eating, I just realized I didn't even introduce myself. So who am I to speak about all of these things? Well, my name is Aglaé Jacob, but you can call me AJ. I'm registered dietitian, but I prefer calling myself a non-diet dietitian because I don't believe in any specific diet that works for everyone, whether it is paleo or vegetarianism or anything in between. I think that it's all a matter of helping my clients find the best diet for themselves. So that's why I call myself a non-diet dietitian and a heart and soul nutritionist, because I believe in the power of nourishing the heart and the soul, which is something that most of us dismiss. And I haven't been taught how. So that's what I want to talk more about today. I'm also a self-love guide, a Reiki practitioner, so I'm really into energy healing too. I'm a lunar and crystal mystic and a spiritual warrior. Okay, so let's go back to the roots, the real roots of emotional eating, because as you now know, it is not only one root, and there are 4 different roots that needs to be nourished for us to eliminate this big symptom that is emotional eating in our life. And it could be a very painful symptom because it makes our life revolve around food and trying the next thing and getting back on the wagon and getting to point Z before we can go to point B. It makes everything so complicated. Okay, so we'll start talking about the body, the root that is our body, and then we'll move on to the mind, the heart, and soul. And for each of these roots, we'll look at 3 common reasons why each of these roots are malnourished or being starved right now in your life, and what we can do to better nourish those. Okay, so with the body, I see a lot of people depriving and restricting their body of food. So that means maybe just trying to cut their calories, to try a specific type of elimination diet or low carb or whatever it is. Our body needs food to be nourished. And if we don't eat enough, if we don't eat regularly at regular intervals, if we fast often, then we can lose that connection and that trust with our body. And that in and of itself can cause emotional eating as a result, because the body is very, very smart. And if we starve our body, even if it doesn't sound like a lot of starvation, if you feel that it's for your body's own good that you do that, your body will find a way to compensate at some point. So it is really a counterproductive strategy to try to deprive or restrict your food. So that's one of the things that I see often that cause a malnourishment for your body. Another one is blood sugar dysregulation, because whenever our blood sugar levels are not even and stable in balance, and when we have a lot of those roller coaster fluctuations, that can lead to a lot of cravings, and that can make emotional eating a lot more likely to happen. So what we can do to counter to, like, what is the best medicine for blood sugar dysregulation? Well, it is to eat balanced meals at regular intervals throughout the day. And it's a bit beyond the scope of this video to talk about that, but I guess usually you would need to have a certain amount of protein, a certain amount of carbs, a certain amount of vegetables or fruits, and then some healthy fats to have that balance that will keep your blood sugar level stable for 3 to 5 hours, and then eat again after 3 to 5 hours. And that includes sleep too. Sleep is another way that we can nourish our body, because when we lack sleep, when we suffer from insomnia, or when we don't sleep enough hours every night, then we're more likely to have blood sugar dysregulation, because a lot of the hormones that our body produces are really, really important to keep our blood sugar levels more stable throughout the day. So sleep can also go into some of the things that you need to do to better nourish that root. And the third thing would be poor gut health. So I see so many people having some kind of gut flora imbalance, probably because I forgot to mention, but I'm the author of the book Digestive Health with Real Food that I have right here. So I see a lot of people with digestive issues, and those can cause a lot of inflammation and cravings, and those little critters, they can really, really affect our desire to want to eat something sweet or starchy, some carbs, because that's what keeps them alive. So we have to be really aware of that. And then if you have gut issues, if that's part of what is causing an imbalance in the root of your body and causing it to be malnourished, then it might be important to try. There are different types of diets. I would really encourage that you talk to someone that knows a lot about these to avoid unnecessary restriction, because we just talked about how unnecessary restriction can cause emotional eating. So we really want to make sure that if you choose to go gluten-free, that it is really what your body needs before doing that, because we don't want to cause any type of unnecessary restriction. That is just really, really counterproductive when it comes to getting rid of emotional eating. And then with gut health, balancing blood sugars, just as we just talked about, healing the gut with things like homemade bone broth, for example, or collagen, balancing the gut flora with probiotics and fermented foods. And if that's not enough, sometimes we need additional testing to see what kind of imbalances in the gut flora there is. So again, that's a little bit beyond the scope of this video, but some of the things to keep in mind when it comes to ensuring that your body is well nourished and balanced. Now let's talk about the mind. So let's talk about 3 common reasons why this root might be starving or malnourished. Number 1 is over worrying and over focusing on food rules. So some people just have so many food rules about what they can and cannot eat and how much and with what and at what time of the day and on and on and on. It is exhausting. So if we center all of our attention, all of our thoughts on food and all of these rules and what we can and cannot do and should and shouldn't, it is very, very exhausting. We are allocating a lot of our personal power and energy to those thoughts that are not really empowering and not helping anything. If anything, they make us feel more deprived, which make us, make all of these roots feel drier and weaker. So we need to give ourselves a break is what we need to do when we are over worrying and over focusing on food rules. Our body is not a calculator, okay? The state in which we eat can affect how we metabolize the food we eat. So what I mean by that is if we eat a brownie or a piece of cake, if you're eating it thinking, oh my God, I shouldn't, oh, this is not good for me, I'm going to gain a weight, or I'm going to have to suffer from bloating or whatever, this is not going to help. You're going to activate your sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight or freeze nervous system, which is going to make it that much more likely that those things will happen, because it will cause your stress hormones to be higher and will put your body in a condition that makes it a whole lot harder for it to properly digest the food that you eat. So guilt, shame, worrying, those are not good ingredients to add to your meals. So time to get rid of those. Another big thing that I see with the mind is a disconnect from our own body. So usually most of the people that I know that suffer from emotional eating are always trying to find different solutions and strategies to help them with their emotional eating, but usually all of these are kind of things that they get from the outside, from different authors and different programs. I guess maybe you're doing a bit of that if you're listening to that video. But what I really want to teach you and empower you to know is that it is really by going back to your own body, to your own mind, to really connecting with all of these parts of yourself and connecting all of these different parts of your own self together, integrating them, that you're going to find the true answers, because the answer is not outside, the answer is within. And that's really what I want to empower you, the message that I want to empower you with. So, if there's any kind of detox that you need to do to cure yourself from emotional eating, I would say that it would be a detox from getting advice from everyone and anyone around you, from, following all of these people on social medias that tell you all about those new crazy latest diets and supplements and whatever. So we need to get to disconnect and unplug from the matrix, so to speak, so that you can learn how to reconnect with yourself. And that starts with the day-to-day practice of asking your body for what it needs and when it needs to eat, and listening to our hunger cues to rebuild that trust. It's not a two-step process, unfortunately, but it can be done, and it can be life-changing. Seriously. Then another way that our mind can be malnourished is when it is full of limiting beliefs. One of the most common and the most pervasive that I hear women have stuck in their own programmings in their heads is the when then kind of limiting belief. So that's a huge roadblock when it comes to healing. It's like, when I lose X amount of pounds, then I'll be able to get that job or meet someone. Or when I, have that perfect diet and have all of my health together, then I'll be able to go on a trip and have fun and do all of these things. So notice those imprints if they're running inside of your head, and start questioning them. Is it really true? Do everybody have to lose X amount of pounds to get a job that they like, or to meet someone, or to go on a trip? Start questioning those beliefs, and then slowly but surely you'll start shifting them as well. Now let's talk about the heart. The heart, it's all about our emotions. And for many people with emotional eating, interestingly enough, there is the word emotional eating in emotional eating. And one of the most common reasons why people do emotionally eat is because they're trying to numb themselves or distract themselves from feeling. So that's a hard one. Most of us are really afraid of our emotions, whether we want to admit it or not. We're not taught from a young age how to deal with our different emotions. So just know that you can learn how to do it again. It was definitely the case for me. I had no clue how to deal with my emotions, and I just wanted to stuff them down. And you don't have to, it doesn't have to be scary. You don't have to start, from, stuffing and distracting and numbing to feeling everything. That would be very scary. But just one of those steps at a time. You can go slow and be gentle with yourself. And really, awareness is the first step in noticing how those emotions are connected to those food behaviors that you have, like emotional eating, and trying to understand the link between the two. That's really the best place to start. It doesn't have to be scary, and you can go slow and be gentle. The second thing that I want to mention about one of the common way we are starving our heart is by motivating ourselves from a place of fear versus from a place of love. So, who here has never tried beating themselves up to motivate them to go on that next diet or lose weight or achieve X and Y, Z? I'm sure that you've tried that for years and years now, but it's time to turn the light on, turn the switch on, and realize that this tactic, this strategy of being hard with yourself and criticizing and bullying yourself and beating yourself up hasn't been working. And it's not going to change. It's just a really, really poor strategy to help you be motivated. I mean, think about it. How would you motivate a friend or a child? Would you yell at them and tell them that they're worthless, that they stay alone forever and unhappy? Well, I don't know you personally, but I'm pretty sure that you wouldn't do that. So it is time to stop being so harsh with ourselves and start talking to ourselves like we would talk to a friend or to a child, because that's how shift can truly happen, not by being so hard on ourselves all the time. And I know it may be hard to believe. I know that some of you may feel like, well, if I do that, it's like giving up, and it's just another excuse to not do the things that I'm supposed to do to take better care of yourself. But I promise, it is as far from the truth as you could believe and ever imagine. So, you've been trying your current strategy of beating yourself up for years. So why not give that other strategy a try, at least for a few months, and see what happens? And then the last piece of information that I want to share about our heart and how it can become malnourished is because we can actually suffer from love starvation from ourselves. Again, that goes back to motivating ourselves from a place of fear versus a place of love. But most of us just haven't never been taught how to love ourselves. And I know, again, that may sound really cheesy, but it really makes a big difference. So learning how to be more compassionate, being more gentle with ourselves, And even if that seems too extreme or too like the complete opposite of what you're doing right now, start with a place where you can approach yourself with more neutrality. Talk to yourself, watch yourself talk, and use something that is more neutral instead of something that is based on self hatred and self loathing and self bullying. So, yeah, what if you would talk to yourself just, instead of being mean to yourself, you don't have to go to all the way of being completely loving and nurturing to yourself, but what if you could, be somewhere in between to start with? What would that feel like to be just a bit more neutral rather than negative with yourself? Okay, now let's talk about the soul. The soul, the soul, the soul. What does our soul need to be nourished, and for all of these roots to be strong and that whole tree to stand tall and have all of these beautiful colors and just express itself as the tree it is supposed to be in this world? The first thing that I think that many people suffer from with that root in particular is being connection deprived. Isolation is rampant in today's society, and it's a bit ironic, because with our phones we're connected to everyone and anyone at all time on social medias and texting and all of that, but it will never replace the need for true human connection that can happen a little bit through the interwebs, but is a whole new different a whole new level when you can experience it face to face, and when you can be in that same that same space, and really, there's a way that our hearts generate an electromagnetic field, and we can connect through that electromagnetic field, and that can be something really powerful that we all need. Feeling like we belong is actually an essential need for humans. And when I say belonging, I'm not talking about being accepted in any type of particular Facebook groups. That's not what belonging is. And belonging is also different than fitting in, because by fitting in, we need to be a different person than we really are to try to fit in and be accepted by others. But true belonging is really all about acceptance, and accepting yourself and being yourself. And once you're able to do that, you're going to find your tribe of people where you can truly belong. I know it's easier said than done, but this is definitely something that starts with accepting yourself, and that includes accepting your body and your weight and your health for where it is at right now. So once you know that acceptance can really help with feeling more connected with yourself and with people around you, and that is so important for our soul, for that beautiful root. Another thing that may be missing for that root is joy. Joy is the best nutrient for our soul, and most people in our society are addicted to busyness and being busy and doing all the time. Well, I would like to ask you, when's the last time that you did something for fun or just for yourself that wasn't necessarily productive? We all need to create some space for play, or to do something that truly nourishes our soul with joy, because it truly is the best nutrient. So I would challenge you to see where, when in your life did you take out all of the joyful things and replace them with productive things that keep you busy and doing all the time, and how can we change that and go back to those things that are so important to nourish that root. And then the last thing that I want to mention about the root of our soul is that sense of purpose, that sense of having a meaning to our life. And to me, soul can mean a lot of things. You can see it as the integration of all the different parts of yourself, your body, heart, and mind. You can see it as something like a connection to your higher self, collecting a connection to source, spirit, the universe, God, the goddess, however, whatever word you want to use. But I feel like it is important, whether you prefer to stick to a certain religion or whether you want to explore spirituality. This has been a big part of my journey, and for many of the women and men that I work with, to just learning how to trust in something bigger and surrender in that, because trust and surrender is a practice. This is not something that just happens magically. It's a practice, and you can use that to connect with something bigger, connect to your higher self, connect all and integrate all of these different parts of your own self together to create some magic, actually, and really help you move forward on your healing journey. Okay, so I know this is a lot to digest right now, but please, you can listen to this video again if you need to just watch it a few times, maybe even, on a regular basis every few days, to really take in all this information about how to better nourish those different roots, see what nutrients you can add to better nourish each of these roots and reconnect with yourself. Because yeah, we are bombarded every single day with distraction and false information that always tends to lead us outside of our body, but the key is really to come back inside. And I know that that there's been something missing all of these years, and that has been preventing you from moving forward on your healing journey and feeling home in your body and being your best self. There's something missing and you've been looking for it. But know that you don't have to look very far to find what is missing, because the answer truly is within. Again, that may sound impossible or just, I don't know. It can be hard to believe. I know, because it was hard for myself to believe too. But know that it is the truth. It is the truth. So it's all about going back to these roots, your body, your mind, your heart and soul, and learning how to reconnect with those roots and connect those roots together and nourish them back to health. And that will change, doing that work under the surface that we don't necessarily see would help change the outside of how you feel in your body and how you present yourself into the world and the person that you are in this world. So yeah, that process truly changed my life, and it can change yours too. So I'm really curious to hear what your thoughts are. Please leave a comment, send me an email at aj@radicatanutrition.com, or connect with me on Facebook or Instagram. Just look for Radicata Nutrition and you'll find me there so we can connect. All right, so I hope that was helpful for you. I know that there are tons of nuggets of wisdoms in this video, so I trust that you will take those that you need for you in your life right now, and hopefully that will help you stop that mad quest of trying to find the answer to your emotional eating problem, because I want to repeat it. Emotional eating is not the problem, and it is not your fault, and there's nothing wrong with you. Emotional eating is simply a symptom of these roots not being nourished the way that they need to. So it's time to go in your garden and nourish those roots. All right, well, have a good rest of your day. Namaste. Take care.